Morning, it's 10 o'clock. So we're here to have a nice discussion today on this forum. So just very quickly, just to give you an idea of who we are. My name's Neil. I'm a wellbeing coach here at Isseropia. And with me today is the lovely Emily. She'll discuss the thing that we're going to be discussing today shortly. So just very quickly, give you an indication of what Isseropia is all about. Hopefully some of you have heard about Isseropia before, but those of you that are joining us and have not seen us before, welcome first of all. But we are a mental health and well-being organisation designed to help individuals to gain tools and skills to improve their well-being um, and reach their goals in life and live a more meaningful life. So today's discussion is going to be around certain elements that some people struggle with their mental well-being. And as well-being coaches, we provide lots of information on different subject matters. So today really is going to be about relationships with food, and Emily will kind of run with this because I don't know if you're all aware that Isseropia very much is built around people with lived experiences. So we are well-being coaches, and what we do with these kind of forums is we kind of identify some struggles that people might have, and from our own experiences we can actually start thinking about using some skills that helped us to overcome some concerns and issues that we've had over the years. So that's it. So just as we go through, a couple of things that I just want to make you aware of. We welcome any kind of feedback that you'd like to provide for us. So you do have the opportunity here to use the chat function, but just remember that this is a public live and it is streamed across different platforms. So if there's anything that you feel that you would like to share but you're not in a position, just be mindful that other people can see any comments that we get as we go along. Okay, so Emily, do you want to kind of just go through some of the things that we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, so it's Eating Disorder Awareness Week this week. So we thought that it was a good time to do a live on eating disorders. But I think it's really important to kind of say that eating disorders can be really competitive. So in the comments, if we can maybe stay away from behaviors that we do and that we're struggling with, and if we can say, give us a call and we can talk about it in that way instead, just because we don't want to give anyone any ideas in ways that they can kind of restrict or do anything that would make them more poorly. So yeah, so today we're going to look at kind of the beauty standard, our relationship with food, our body image, and the relationship that we have with our bodies, and kind of go from there really, and just give us a comment if there's anything that we can kind of talk through with you, and we can go from there. So yeah.
Absolutely, well done, and that's the important thing. Today's forum really is about actually giving us some feedback on things that we might be able to benefit and help you out with in terms of some of our experiences.
Yeah. Cool. So the first question is, where does the beauty standard come from and how does it affect our self-esteem? I think the beauty standard is, we were talking about this in the office yesterday, that when we have now, because we have social media and we have like worldwide global influences, kind of my generation now, I don't know what you would say, but it's a lot harder for us because we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got Google at the end of our fingers, and it can be really difficult to navigate a world that's drilling in, like for women, the beauty of thinness, and for men being big and muscular and tall, and I think that when your perception of that isn't that you fit that, it can be quite isolating and quite exclusive. So I think when you're looking at the amount of social media, I know when I was really poorly, I was constantly on TikTok, and I was comparing myself to everyone, like, oh, my body doesn't look like that, so I mustn't be very pretty, or I wish I looked like that. And it was just really difficult to kind of not have that in my head all the time. So something that I've done now is I've kind of tried to take myself away. I've tried to limit the beauty ideals of the world, because if you look at things like films and music videos and the fashion industry, everyone is so top of the range, and so beautiful and thin, and quite often that's not actually how they look. They can be photoshopped, lots of makeup, angles, so it's not a realistic representation of someone. So I think it's a lot about realizing that and really drilling it into yourself. I think we can quite often obsess over it, and that can be kind of, for me, I think that was the start of my downfalls when I was a young teenager and I was really tall and I wasn't like everybody else. It was really difficult for me. So yeah. And what about you?
That's a really interesting point, because I have I would say a youngish daughter. She's just around about 12 now, and she's very constantly on platforms. She does TikTok, she does Instagram, I think, is another one. And quite often she talks to me about, that girl's extremely pretty, I want to be like her. And I think it's very, very difficult, is it not? When I went back from when I was younger, we didn't kind of have that that kind of place. But I remember there were a couple of occasions where I used to go to school and I wanted to be like other people in terms of, you said about body image. And I spent quite a long time fixated on the fact of maybe just building my muscles whichever way I needed to do, until I kind of looked exactly like I felt was the right place to be, if that makes sense. So it's quite interesting.
And
really
then you're
good point.
Constantly chasing almost perfectionism.
Yes.
And in the office, we always say that being a perfectionist is really good for everyone else, but it's really detrimental for you, because you're chasing an ideal that isn't actually realistic.
Yes.
It's like 98% of Americans don't look like people on the TV. And if you look at America, that's a heck of a lot of people that don't look like the people that are being represented. So yeah, it's difficult, and I think the only way that you can really get on top of that is accept that it's not realistic, and accept that actually everybody has something that makes them beautiful, whether you see it or not. Like, so say for you have something that makes you beautiful, but you might not know it, but other people see it. And I think it's looking at, okay, well, what am I focusing on? It's like when we say always, what you focus on expands. So if you're constantly focusing on the fact that all these beautiful people don't look like you, then it's going to make your mental well-being decrease, because you're constantly, like, in every aspect of your life, like, oh, I don't want to go out because I'm anxious because I don't look like this, or I don't look how I want to look. So it's really difficult to navigate a world like that. So accepting that actually it's okay that you don't look like that, because most people don't look like that, and just trying to build your confidence in what you have. I think it's really difficult because a lot of women and a lot of men have something called body dysmorphia. So, and this is something that I've struggled with a lot, is that my body, or the way that I feel I look, isn't true in my eyes. And like, you kind of focus on one thing and you get obsessed on that one thing and trying to change that thing, and your eyes feel like they're lying to you, and other people will be like, what are you on about? I can't even see it. And so it's really difficult, but letting go of that and saying, okay, it's okay. And I think that's a really big step that really helped me.
In your experience, when people actually kind of said to you that you are a beautiful young lady, did you kind of just automatically dismiss that?
Yeah.
Because you're focusing your energies on other areas?
Yeah, because I guess in a way you think, oh, I don't think that. How can they think that? They must be lying, or they must just be saying it to make me feel better. But I think what I've learned now is just to say thank you. and
Yeah.
to just like kind of take it and reflect on it and be like, okay, that's their opinion, and I'm really grateful that that's their opinion, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be the same as my opinion, but my opinion isn't right all the time as well. Yeah, so I think it's quite difficult, and I think when people have really low self-esteem, a lot of people do think, okay, they're lying, or okay, they're just saying that, and just saying thank you and just saying, oh, thanks, I really appreciate it, again and again and again. At some point you will start to be like, oh, thanks, that's actually really nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of like fake it till you
It
make
takes
it.
a lot of effort, doesn't it, to
Mm.
change kind of your self-esteem and the way that you see yourself. It's not an easy task,
No.
is it?
No, it's like a full-time job. You constantly have to do it. And I think the thing with disordered eating or disordered body image is that it takes over your whole life. So it's a massive effort to change that way of thinking.
And Ruth just, hiya Ruth, she's just put a comment there, which I find quite interesting as well. I liken it to 10 people looking at a painting and ask each one, and they can see completely different perspective. And that's really quite interesting, isn't it? We have quite a lot of conversations, especially with people that we kind of work with, and where they perceive something completely different for themselves. Self-esteem, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's a really good point, Carol. Should we have another question?
Yeah.
And this is an interesting one, isn't it?
Is your relationship with food related to your body or image, or is it separate? So I think we can pop that out to everyone watching as well. But I don't know about you, but I think my relationship with food can sometimes dictate, or definitely did maybe a year or two ago, dictate how much I like it. It's really strange because I would say I would have like a bar of chocolate and my brain would actually tell me that I looked bigger, where that's actually not possible. There's no way that it could actually make me bigger, but my brain had convinced me that that was what was going to happen because my fear of it was so massive.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite difficult when you have a bad relationship with food and you're constantly telling yourself, I can't eat this because this is bad, or I can't eat this because this is dirty food, or I can't eat this because this is going to make me fat. Then you kind of speak it into existence.
Yeah.
So I think if you don't have rules, and I was reading and it said every single diet that you ever do is destined to fail. So no matter what you try and do to lose weight, people have designed these things to fail, and they've designed them to reduce your metabolism and reduce the amount of food that your body needs to survive in order to make you fail. So it's so unsustainable that you're like, I can't do this anymore, I just want to eat normally. Then when you do not eat normally, then you put the weight back on because your metabolism's broken.
Yeah,
and
makes sense.
Your body needs less calories and less food to maintain its weight. So then when you go back to eating how you were, your body thinks that you're overeating. So yeah, and then then you come back to the diet and then you go off it again and you search for a new one, and that's how they make their money. So I think when you do a diet, when you follow all of these rules, like I know someone that said that she couldn't eat anything that began with B, and that's like so restrictive because like I love biscuits and burgers and like brioche buns and things like that,
bananas
and stuff like that. But even a banana, that's a healthy food. That is a good choice.
Yeah.
And it makes all of these rules that you don't need. You don't need to put these rules on yourself and someone said to me once, just because it's not good for your body doesn't mean it's not good for your soul. And that's something that stuck with me for a really long time because, okay, yeah, it might not be really nutritionally dense, but it's good and it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it, so it's good for me. And when you have all of these rules, you're then destined to have a bad relationship with food. You're destined to say, oh, I can't eat this burger today. And then if you really want that burger and you eat it, then you're going to feel guilty.
Yeah.
You're not giving yourself an opportunity to not feel that guilty. It's like the same. We've all been raised with rules, and if you break those rules, then there's consequences.
There's consequence.
Yeah, so it's really difficult to then not have a bad relationship with food, and then because you've got all of these rules and all of this guilt and shame and embarrassment, you're going to then have a bad relationship with your body and with yourself. So it's really difficult, and I think the only way that I've really come as far as I've come in such a short period of time, and something that held me back for such a long period of time, was that I didn't look at food as enjoyable. I looked at food as really scary and really unnecessary. Like, I just was like, I don't want to eat. Why is my body like forcing me to feel hungry? And when I let that go, and when I honored it, and when I said, okay, yeah, I want to have this, and that's okay, then my relationship with food got so much better. And I think it's a really hard thing when you've all your life have had these rules, and when your parents have said, oh, you can't eat that, you'll get fat if you eat that. It's really hard to reverse it. And I think I've been quite lucky that my mum's never done that to me, and I don't know really where I got all of these rules from, but I think it might have been social media. But it's for a lot of people, it's not them that put those rules in them when they're really young, it's other people. And I spoke to someone, and she was saying, so with like binge eating, she asked someone, when you were younger, were you ever forced to finish your plate even if you were full? And she was like, yeah. And they were like, you were taught not to listen to your hunger cues and your fullness cues. You were, from a really young age, you were said, okay, it doesn't matter if you're full, you need to continue to eat until you finished it. So then it's no wonder that people develop something that they don't feel full. They never feel full because they've never had to listen to it. So they don't know how it feels. So it's really interesting how everything comes down to what you've experienced and your thought processes. But it's kind of a good thing, because we know here that you can change that, and you can do things in little steps to change the way that you think about things. It's just got to take the first step.
That's a really interesting thing, because I've learned something myself just from that sentiment alone, because I quite often, especially with my children earlier days, had the same kind of experience. They weren't allowed to leave the table until they'd finished their dinner. But one thing that I did actually kind of click when you said in terms of, you could certainly see your relationship with food, whether that be binge eating or whether not eating, has a massive effect on your mood. Would you agree with that?
Your favorite saying?
My favorite saying is, food is mood, and there's no doubt about that. We need to fuel our bodies. You know, my relationship with food, because of the experiences that I had from a job point of view, I didn't actually enjoy the food. And the way that I started to kind of realize is, I could tell when I was getting hungry, but I wouldn't kind of accept that I was hungry because I didn't have enough time to eat. So doing some things that I've done, and clearly you've done it yourself, is to kind of start enjoying food in terms of not just the food itself, but the preparation and the kind of stuff that you put into your diet. You know, making sure you get the right kind of proteins and fats, because that now that I still don't have a diet as best as I probably could, but I'm now very conscious of how that can affect my mood massively. I can go long stretches without actually an intake of food, but I'm obviously aware. I'm not saying that I have to force myself to eat, but I am aware that when my mood starts to drop, now is the time to refuel my body. And my body's telling me that it needs to be refueled. Because it's not just the rumbling in the tummy, it's what's going on in your head as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so for me, when I was really, well, even now, when I'm really hungry, my hands start to shake. And that's the same symptom that I would have if I was really anxious. So then my body goes, are you anxious or are you hungry? And then I start to feel anxious, because I've kind of convinced myself that I'm not hungry, I'm just anxious. So it's really important to keep your blood sugar levels really stable. And I think something that makes me so sad for people is when they're like, I don't eat carbohydrates, and it's like you are depriving yourself of the key food that you need, that your brain needs to make serotonin. And everyone knows that we need serotonin. Serotonin is the happiness molecule. So we need serotonin to feel better, and we need some carbohydrates in order to do that. And that doesn't mean eating bread and rice and pasta. It means eating vegetables like bananas, apples, peas. It's not fruit, but so it's we need food in order to feel happy, and we need food in order to not feel anxious. We need food in order to, I don't know about you, but when you haven't eaten, you get more vulnerable to stress, get really like overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
So
I agree totally.
We definitely need food in order to kind of go about our days. You wouldn't drive on the motorway with no fuel in your car, so why would you do a whole day of work with no fuel in your body? So so it's difficult.
That's good. So Joe's just put there, what support does Isoropia offer for eating disorders? Just to quickly clarify that, Joe, none of us here are experts in kind of medically trained effectively in these kind of things. We kind of give you an overview, we get an understanding, we all have an understanding, but our team of people here have experiences in different sort of mental health struggles that we've managed to get through. So you do have sufficient support through Isoropia, but it's in terms of kind of working your way through. So if there's anything in particular around eating disorders, we do have people here that have kind of lived experience that can actually help you out in terms of, there's lots of elements. I'm not an expert in eating disorders because I haven't myself suffered with an eating disorder. I've suffered with things like my relationship with food and understanding a little bit like we've been talking about what impact that can have on my other mental health issues that I was suffering with. So just to kind of give you a quick answer to that, Joe, there's no experts, but there are expertise within the group of people that work with us.
And also, I think if I had had Isoropia 5 years ago and I dealt with my anxiety about food, then I wouldn't have got to a situation where I was so poorly. So I think, although right now we don't have a specific branch for people suffering with disordered eating, I think if you came to the anxiety workshop, the confidence and self-esteem workshop, the emotional regulation workshop, they all have like skills and tools that you can use to specialize them into your food anxiety. So I think that would be my advice would be to just kind of, because everyone comes in, we always say we're all in the same storm but in different boats. So if you went into an anxiety workshop and your boat was you had really high anxiety around food, then you can use all the tools that we give you and specialize that with working with your anxiety around food.
Good. So can we get the next question up? Hopefully somebody will do that for us, and if not, there we go. So how can we work towards repairing our relationship with food? How did you kind of do that?
I think looking at, like what I was saying before, is separating your relationship with food and your body. I think looking at, and just little things like the language that you use surrounding food. I make sure that I definitely don't use good or bad when I talk about food. You'll never hear me say this is a good food or this is a bad food. I use like good choices or healthy choices. So definitely looking at the language, because our language has such an importance on the way that we look at the world, and removing all the diets in your life 100%. I think that's probably one of the most important things you can do. And I know that some people argue that, okay, well, my doctor's told me that I need to lose weight. And it's like, you can still lose weight and not do a diet.
Have to do a stringent diet.
Yes, you can. So something that I was told was, say you wanted a burger and fries or a pizza or something, have that, but also have a salad. And like, instead of having the whole pizza, maybe have 3/4 of the pizza,
Yeah.
and then replace that extra quarter of the pizza with some vegetables. So you're still enjoying the food and you're still giving yourself the freedom to have the foods that you enjoy, but you're also making a healthy choice.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the best thing. And learning that something that I found was when I took myself away from all of the foods I loved, all I wanted was those foods. I was constantly thinking, I really want a chocolate bar, I really want a chocolate bar, I really want a chocolate bar. And it was only when I was like, hey, you can have a chocolate bar every day if you want a chocolate bar.
Yes.
I stopped craving it. And I can go a couple of days without having a chocolate bar now, because I haven't. It's like when someone says don't do that and you're like, oh, but now I really want to do it. It's the same kind of thing. So, and also, so what I would say is stop counting calories, because that's it's just, I think all of the calorie counting apps, they say that you should have like such a small amount of calories that's suitable to feed a toddler. So yeah, just remove yourself from them. Don't give yourself the trigger. I was obsessed with counting my calories. I would like weigh out a cucumber, and it was just like,
Really?
yeah, and it was like, I don't need to do that. And as soon as I stopped doing that, I enjoyed, like what you were saying before, I love making food now. I love looking at all of the different colors and all of the different textures of the food. I love it. It's one of the best parts of my day. And being conscious about the kind of media that you're taking in,
that you're tapping into,
and your comparison with that, and just allowing yourself to eat what you want to eat when you want to eat it. And the more that you do that, the less you'll find yourself binging, the less that you'll find yourself worried about food. It's two complete opposite of the spectrums. If you're not telling yourself this is a bad food, then you're not going to feel the guilt when you eat it.
When you eat it, yes.
Whereas, and if you let yourself eat it, you're not going to take it too far when you do let yourself eat it.
Yeah.
So that would be my opinion. But Ruth says, I've been living with anorexia since I was 16, and I'm an advocate of fuel the body, fuel the mind. Anxiety soars when I don't eat, but now I recognize the difference between anxiety and hunger. And I think when, this is just my experience, but because I've always suffered with anxiety from a really young age, my eating disorder was just a way that anxiety took control over my life. And I think when you give yourself extra chances to feel anxious, you're gonna feel worse.
Yes.
So if you take that away and you are like, I'm in control of my anxiety, I have the ability to let myself feel guilty or to not let myself feel guilty, and put myself in situations where I'm not going to feel guilty. That then increases your well-being.
So in terms of your journey, Emily, and lots of other people's, there's a lot of things that you can do, can't you? In terms of when you were just talking about that was trying to, that for you, I'm assuming here, was moving towards a more of a positive mental attitude about understanding that certain things you're able to control yourself. You know, when you were talking about anxiety and all those areas, we often say to a lot of people that we deal with, don't we, is we've got to look at changing your kind of attitude around things. And you've clearly done a lot of work around that in terms of tackling something that was causing you a lot of mental health issues. And you know, that's quite interesting, because I'm now looking back, when we've done a bit of work for ourselves, is when I said to you that I didn't have a relationship with food because I was in a real big heavy job. I felt guilty if I stopped to actually take in food, and that in itself created so much stress and pressure to me. So there's and then I had to change my mindset totally, and just kind of say to myself, I'm getting stressed out because I am not fueling my body. So I have to make the decision myself, because I need to empower myself to do that. And then I kind of realized that it's not a bad thing to take a 5-minute break. It's not a bad thing to stop and fuel your body.
If you take that 5-minute break, you'll be more productive than
Absolutely.
if you hadn't taken that 5-minute break. And I think that we have to eat at least 3 times a day, every day, for the rest of our lives, for our entire lives. So you may as well make that as enjoyable and the least anxiety provoking as you can through your mindset. And when you change your mindset around food, like food will always be there and food will always taste the same and taste nice. You always have things that you don't like and things that you do like. So make those choices based on how it makes you feel. So if you don't like chocolate because it gives you a migraine, don't eat the chocolate. But if you love chocolate like me, then eat the chocolate. It's not gonna kill you and it's not gonna do anything bad to you. Your relationship with the food is the difficult part, not the actual food.
That's brilliant. I mean, I'm sure that we've got half an hour today. It's quite a big subject, isn't it? And we do these once every week, so I am sure that at some stage, a little bit later on, we'll probably revisit this kind of topic. So I'm hoping today, at least, you've learned something from it, and it's really nice to see that we have quite a lot of people connected. So we're getting towards the end of the time. So just to conclude, Isseropia, we do have a website. So please log on to isseropia.uk and you'll find out all the information there. We do have a contact telephone number, so you can always give us a ring. We're now into self-referral. So please just investigate Isseropia via the website and please contact us if you feel you need to. Outside of this, just to remind you that there are other organizations to help you and support you in your need. So
have a look at Beat. The Beat website is really good.
Fantastic. There's a Beat
BEAT.
website, BEAT.
Yeah.
And
it
that's
also, sorry.
Go on, carry on.
It also has a section for family members who need support to support their family who's suffering with an eating disorder. So if you have a daughter or a sibling or someone and they're suffering with food as well, you can have a look on that website and they will support you.
Fantastic. So in the comments, you will see that we've given you some information about contact numbers, how you can contact us at Isseropia, and there is a link direct to the website. So thank you all for coming on and at least listening to us. And I hope that we've kind of filled your half an hour up with some good information. And thank you so much, Emily. Emily has already taught me a number of things that I need to focus my energies on as well. So that's really good. So we'll see you all again. The next one that we'll be doing live is next Friday at 1 o'clock, and that will be a different subject, but we'll let you all know what that will be. Okay, so on that note, we'll bid you farewell and thank you for listening.